The morning I discovered my wife's affair, I was debugging a SQL injection vulnerability in our bank's customer portal. Ironic, considering someone was about to inject themselves into my marriage in ways I never imagined possible. My name is Dylan Parker, and I've spent the last 15 years building firewalls around other people's money. Senior software engineer at FinTech Solutions, specializing in cybersecurity for financial systems. I can spot a phishing attack from 3 time zones away, but somehow missed the signs that my own home network had been compromised by something far more dangerous than malware. The red flag started 6 months ago, subtle at first. Christina, my wife of 14 years, began treating her phone like classified intel. New passwords, encrypted messaging apps, VPN connections that hadn't existed before. As a digital marketing director, she claimed it was for client security. Made sense at the time. "Dylan, have you seen my laptop charger?" Christina called from our bedroom that Wednesday morning, October 4th. The same tone she'd used for years, but now it carried an edge I couldn't quite place. "Check the kitchen counter," I replied, not looking up from my code. 3 monitors displayed cascading terminal windows, each one a different layer of our security infrastructure. The bank's SOC team had flagged unusual access patterns overnight, and I needed to investigate before our morning client presentation. Christina appeared in my home office doorway, already dressed in that navy blazer she saved for important meetings. At 42, she still turned heads, something I'd been proud of once upon a time. "Working from home today?" she asked, though we both knew the answer. Wednesday was my remote day, had been for 2 years. Client presentation at 11, then I need to trace some anomalous login attempts. I gestured at the screens. "Someone's been probing our authentication endpoints. Probably script kiddies, but we can't take chances." She nodded, but her attention was already elsewhere, fingers dancing across her phone screen. "I have that strategy session with Alex this afternoon, the new analytics project for the Denver Tech Consortium." Alex Turner, the freelance cybersecurity consultant who'd been helping Christina with advanced analytics for her digital marketing clients. 6 months of evening calls, weekend strategy sessions, and encrypted communications that supposedly revolutionized her business model. Right, the analytics guy. I saved my work and swiveled to face her. "What kind of analytics require that much security infrastructure?" "Client data protection, healthcare, finance, government contracts. You know how paranoid these companies are about data breaches." I did know. It was my job to be that paranoid. Maybe I should meet this Alex sometime. Compare notes on security protocols. Something flickered across her face. "He's very busy. High-profile clients, you understand?" "I'm sure." I turned back to my monitors. "Drive safe." Her heels clicked across our hardwood floors, each step echoing through our Cherry Hills Village home like a countdown timer I didn't yet understand. The garage door rumbled open, her BMW's engine purring to life, then silence. I should have been focused on the bank's security issues, but something nagged at me. Call it professional paranoia or husband's intuition. But Christina's behavior patterns had shifted dramatically over the past 6 months. New digital habits, enhanced operational security, compartmentalized information sharing. In my world, those were indicators of compromise. The house felt different when she was gone. Our smart home system continued its programmed routines, thermostat adjustments, automated lighting, security cameras cycling through their preset patterns. 2 years ago, I'd installed a comprehensive home automation system, motion sensors, door contacts, networked cameras in common areas. Originally designed for security and convenience, but lately serving a different purpose. My phone buzzed with a Slack notification from the office. The morning client presentation had been moved up an hour. I grabbed my laptop bag and headed downtown, leaving the house to its electronic guardians. FinTech Solutions occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in Denver's financial district. Our security operations center looked like mission control, wall-mounted displays showing real-time threat intelligence from around the globe. Red dots represented active attacks, yellow indicated suspicious activity, green meant normal operations. Today's map looked like Christmas lights. "Morning, Dylan." Sarah Randolph, our junior security analyst, waved me over to her workstation. "Those authentication anomalies you flagged? They're more sophisticated than we thought." I pulled up a chair beside her. "Show me." "Someone's been conducting reconnaissance on our client portal. Not random attacks, targeted queries against specific account ranges. They're mapping our system architecture." The data scrolled past in neat columns. IP addresses, timestamps, query patterns, professional work, not the usual brute force attempts we saw daily. Geolocation on the source IPs? That's the interesting part. Sarah highlighted several entries. VPN endpoints in Romania, but the attack vectors suggest someone with insider knowledge of financial system architecture. My stomach tightened. What kind of insider knowledge? They're probing for specific vulnerabilities that only surface in multi-factor authentication bypass scenarios. Banking industry stuff. I studied the attack patterns, recognizing techniques I'd seen in advanced persistent threat briefings. This wasn't random. Someone was preparing for a serious breach attempt. Lock down those endpoints and escalate to incident response. I want full forensics on these queries. Already in progress, Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard. Should we notify the FBI liaison? Not yet. Let's gather more evidence first. The client presentation went smoothly, our security metrics impressing the board members enough to approve increased cybersecurity spending. But throughout the meeting, my mind kept drifting to those attack patterns. The techniques were too sophisticated for common criminals, too targeted for state actors. This felt personal. During lunch break, I opened the security app for our home system. The cameras provided live feeds from our living room, kitchen, and main hallways. Nothing unusual, just empty rooms waiting for evening routines. Then I remembered Christina's afternoon strategy session with Alex. Checking the timestamp, I realized she should be home by now. I switched to the living room camera and immediately wished I hadn't. My wife stood in the center of our family room, but she wasn't alone. Alex Turner, tall, athletic, probably late 30s, had his hands on her waist, pulling her close. What followed made my blood freeze in my veins. They moved together with the familiarity of longtime lovers, not business partners. Her blazer dropped to the floor, his hands tangling in her hair. On the couch where we'd watched movies with our daughter Chloe. Where we'd celebrated Christmas mornings and birthday parties. I sat in my office cubicle, watching my marriage disintegrate in real time through a camera system I'd installed to protect my family. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m. Chloe wouldn't be home from school until 4:30. They had over an hour. My hands shook as I activated the recording function. Professional training kicked in. Document everything, preserve evidence, maintain chain of custody. The same protocols I used for cybercrime investigations now applied to my personal life. They moved to the sofa, and I forced myself to keep watching, not from some voyeuristic impulse, but because I needed proof. In divorce proceedings, digital evidence could make the difference between equitable distribution and losing everything. But as I watched, something else caught my attention. Alex's behavior seemed oddly aware, his movements calculated. Twice he glanced toward the camera location with what looked like deliberate acknowledgement. Then it happened. Alex looked directly into the camera lens and smiled. Not the unconscious expression of someone lost in passion, but a cold, calculated grin. He raised his hand and waved, fingers moving in a gesture that was unmistakably deliberate. He knew about the cameras. He knew I was watching. My phone buzzed with an encrypted message from an unknown number. "Enjoying the show, Dylan? We need to talk." The blood drained from my face. This wasn't just an affair, it was a trap. I closed the security app and called in sick for the afternoon, claiming food poisoning. On the drive home, my mind raced through possibilities. Alex wasn't just Christina's lover. He was a professional running some kind of operation. But what did he want? What was the end game? Our neighborhood looked normal when I pulled into the driveway. No suspicious vehicles, no signs of surveillance. But after 15 years in cybersecurity, I knew threats rarely announced themselves so obviously. The garage door closed behind my car with its usual mechanical precision. I sat in the darkness for several minutes, trying to process what I'd witnessed. Then my phone buzzed again. "Check your email. We have business to discuss." My laptop connected to our home Wi-Fi automatically, but something felt wrong. The network traffic seemed sluggish, packets dropping in patterns that suggested interference. I ran a quick network scan and discovered several new devices connected to our router. Devices I hadn't authorized. My email contained a single message with an encrypted attachment. The sender was a Proton Mail account, the subject line simply, "Proposal." The attachment was a PDF, password protected. The password was Chloe's birthday. He knew my daughter's birthday. The document opened to reveal screenshots, not just from today's living room encounter, but from previous sessions I hadn't witnessed. Weeks of evidence that Alex and Christina had been using our home for their affair. But that wasn't the disturbing part. The PDF also contained screenshots of my work computer, email conversations with clients, security protocols, system architecture diagrams. Someone had penetrated our corporate network and was documenting our financial security systems. The final page contained a simple message. "Dylan, your wife has been very helpful in providing access to your digital life. We have comprehensive documentation of your activities, both personal and professional. This creates certain complications for your cybersecurity career and your family's reputation. However, we're reasonable people. Delete all surveillance footage from the past 6 months. Transfer $50,000 to the Bitcoin address provided, and we can resolve this situation quietly. You have 48 hours to comply. Failure to cooperate will result in the public release of all materials, including intimate recordings of Christina and detailed documentation of security vulnerabilities in your financial systems. We'll also share everything with your daughter's school friends. Teenagers can be so cruel about family scandals. Choose wisely." The Bitcoin address was followed by a timer. 47 hours, 23 minutes, 14 seconds. I stared at the screen, mind reeling. This wasn't random cybercrime. This was a sophisticated social engineering attack using my wife as the primary vector. Alex hadn't just seduced Christina. He'd weaponized her access to my life. The front door chimed as the security system announced someone's arrival. Through the kitchen window, I saw Christina's BMW in the driveway. She was home early, probably expecting to clean up evidence before I returned from work. Dylan. Her voice carried surprise and something that might have been panic. I thought you were working downtown today. Came home sick. I closed the laptop and walked to the kitchen, trying to maintain a normal behavior. Stomach bug. She stood in the doorway, hair slightly disheveled, lipstick faded. The blazer she'd worn that morning was wrinkled in places that told their own story. You look fine to me. She moved to the refrigerator, avoiding eye contact. Maybe you should rest. Where's Alex? The question stopped her cold. What? Your business partner, Alex Turner, the analytics consultant you've been working with for 6 months. He had to leave for another client meeting. Her voice carried forced casualness. Why? Just curious about this analytics project that requires so much security infrastructure. She turned to face me, and for a moment, I saw something in her expression. Not guilt or shame, but fear. Dylan, what's going on? You tell me. I pulled out my phone and showed her the encrypted message. Someone's been using our home security system to document your afternoon activities. The color drained from her face. Someone's been watching? The question is how long you've known about it. I didn't. She stopped, shaking her head. This is insane. What's insane is that your business partner knows our daughter's birthday. What's insane is that he has access to my work systems. What's insane is that you've been feeding information to a cyber criminal for 6 months. Cyber criminal? Her voice cracked. Alex is a security consultant. He helps companies protect their data. By blackmailing their employees? I showed her the PDF, watching her face change as she scrolled through the screenshots. The intimate photos brought tears, but the work documents triggered something closer to horror. He said he needed to understand financial security protocols to better protect my clients. She sank into a kitchen chair. I thought I was helping. You gave him access to our home network? He said the router firmware was outdated. Security vulnerability. He updated it as a favor. I closed my eyes, feeling the full scope of the compromise wash over me. Alex hadn't just hacked our marriage. He'd used Christina's trust to penetrate our entire digital life. Professional social engineering at its finest. How long has this been going on? 6 months. Her voice was barely a whisper. It started as professional consulting, then became more. I didn't plan for it to happen, Dylan. You work constantly, Chloe's always busy with school activities, and Alex was interested in my ideas. He made me feel valuable. So valuable that you gave him access to classified financial security systems? I didn't know. Tears were flowing now. He said he needed to understand the work environment to better protect client data. Everything seemed legitimate. My phone buzzed with another message. Family meeting in progress. Don't involve local police. We monitor emergency frequencies. This stays between us. I showed Christina the message. They're listening to us right now. Her face went white. How is that possible? Smart home devices, compromised router firmware, probably malware on your phone and laptop. Alex has been building surveillance infrastructure for months. The reality of our situation hit me like a physical blow. We weren't just dealing with marital infidelity. We were hostages in a sophisticated cybercrime operation. Alex had used romance as a weapon to compromise a financial systems security expert, and now he was leveraging that access for profit. What do they want? Money, obviously, but also something else. I thought about the attack pattern Sarah had shown me that morning. I think this is bigger than simple extortion. How much bigger? Before I could answer, the house's smart speaker system activated without prompting. Dylan, we need to discuss terms privately. Send Christina out for groceries. 30 minutes. The voice was Alex's, transmitted through our own home automation system. He wasn't just monitoring us, he was controlling our environment. Christina stared at the speaker in horror. He can hear everything? Everything. See everything. Probably access everything. I pulled out a notepad and wrote, "Assume all devices compromised." Then spoke aloud. "Honey, we're out of milk for dinner. Could you run to the store?" She read the note and nodded, understanding that we were performing for hostile surveillance. "Of course. I'll be back in an hour." After she left, I sat in my living room, the same room where I'd watched my marriage crumble that afternoon, and waited for Alex to make contact. The smart TV turned on automatically, displaying a video call window. Alex's face appeared on the screen, but he wasn't in our house anymore. Professional backdrop, high-quality camera, encrypted connection indicators in the corner. This was a serious operation. Dylan Parker, senior software engineer, cybersecurity specialist, 15 years experience protecting financial systems. Married to Christina Parker, father to Chloe Parker, age 13. Annual household income approximately $280,000. Net worth $1.2 million, including home equity and retirement accounts. You've done your homework. I always do. Alex's smile carried no warmth. Your wife has been very cooperative, surprisingly trusting for someone married to a cybersecurity expert. What do you want? Beyond the initial payment? Access. To what? FinTech Solutions maintains security protocols for 17 major financial institutions. Combined customer base of over 40 million accounts. Your credentials provide administrative access to systems managing approximately $800 billion in assets. The scope of his ambition hit me like ice water. This wasn't random extortion. Alex was planning a major financial attack using my access credentials. Even if I wanted to help, which I don't, those systems have multiple authentication factors. Biometric scanners, hardware tokens, behavioral analysis. You can't just walk in with stolen passwords. True, but you can. I'm not stealing $800 billion for you. Who said anything about stealing? Alex leaned forward. We're talking about accessing specific account data for targeted individuals. High net worth clients, political figures, celebrities. Information is worth more than money these days. Blackmail material. Insurance policies. People make better decisions when they understand the consequences of poor choices. I felt sick. This is about building a criminal intelligence network. This is about evolving past outdated concepts of crime and punishment. The digital age requires new approaches to influence and control. You're insane. I'm practical, and I have your wife on video, your daughter's school schedule, your work credentials, and enough compromising material to destroy your career and family. You have 36 hours to provide what we need, or we release everything. The call ended, leaving me alone with the weight of impossible choices. I spent the next hour conducting a thorough security assessment of our home network. The scope of compromise was staggering. Alex's team had infected every connected device: smart TVs, thermostats, security cameras, even Chloe's gaming console. They'd been monitoring our family for months, documenting routines, gathering intelligence, building a comprehensive profile for exploitation. But they'd made one crucial mistake. In cybersecurity, we have a principle: trust, but verify. When someone claims total system compromise, you verify the extent of their access. Most criminals overstate their capabilities to increase perceived leverage. I pulled up our home router's administrative interface and discovered something interesting. The firmware had indeed been modified, but not completely replaced. Alex's team had installed monitoring software, but they'd preserved core functionality to avoid detection. This meant they were logging our traffic, not necessarily controlling it. More importantly, my work laptop connected to our corporate VPN through encrypted tunnels that bypassed local network monitoring. Alex had screenshots of emails and documents, but he'd obtained them through Christina's access to my personal devices, not through penetration of our corporate security infrastructure. He was bluffing about the scope of his access to fintech solution systems. But the personal threats were entirely real. Christina returned from her grocery run looking shaken. I handed her another note. They're watching and listening. Play normal until Chloe gets home. She nodded and began preparing dinner with forced normalcy, humming quietly while chopping vegetables. The domestic routine felt surreal given the circumstances, but maintaining appearances was crucial until we could figure out our next move. Chloe arrived home at 4:45, backpack slung over her shoulder, complaining about chemistry homework. At 13, she was already showing aptitude for technical subjects, something that had made me proud until this moment. Now it felt like a vulnerability. Dad, can you help me with programming logic tonight? She dropped her bag by the kitchen counter. The teacher wants us to design a simple encryption algorithm. Of course, sweetheart. I forced a smile while my mind raced. If Alex's team was monitoring everything, they'd hear any conversation about encryption or security. After dinner, the evening passed in careful normalcy: family dinner, homework assistance, television time. But underneath the routine, Christina and I communicated through glances and gestures, both understanding that our home had become a stage where we performed for hostile surveillance. At 9:30, I tucked Chloe into bed and kissed her forehead, wondering if our family would survive the next 36 hours intact. Christina was waiting in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of our bed with tears in her eyes. "What are we going to do?" she whispered. I wrote on a piece of paper, working on it. "Tomorrow, I contact authorities." She shook her head and wrote back. "He said no police." "What about Chloe?" I took the pen. "Federal agents, different rules." "I have contacts." Her response: "What if they release everything anyway?" I didn't have an answer for that. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to Christina's restless breathing beside me. Our marriage had fractured, possibly beyond repair, but that had become secondary to protecting our daughter and preventing a major cybercrime. At 3:17 a.m., my work phone buzzed with an emergency alert. Someone had attempted to access FinTech Solutions network using my credentials from an IP address in Romania. Our security systems had blocked the intrusion attempt, but the implications were clear. Alex wasn't waiting for my cooperation. He was already trying to breach our corporate systems. I slipped out of bed and padded to my home office, where I composed an encrypted email to Agent Jennifer Walsh at the FBI's Denver field office. Jen and I had worked together on several cybercrime cases involving financial institutions. She understood both the technical aspects of digital forensics and the legal framework for prosecuting international cyber criminals. The email was brief. "Jen, I need to meet urgently regarding an active cybercrime targeting financial systems. Can't discuss over standard channels. Personal and professional security compromised. Available anytime today. Dylan. I sent the message through the corporate VPN, bypassing our home network entirely. Then I returned to bed and waited for dawn. Christina was already awake when my alarm sounded at 6:30. Did you sleep at all? She asked quietly. Some. You? No. She turned to face me. Dylan, I'm sorry. For everything. I never meant for this to happen. I know. Do you think we can get through this? I considered the question carefully. I think we can protect Chloe and stop Alex. Beyond that, I don't know. She nodded, accepting the honesty. What do you need me to do? Act normal. Take Chloe to school. Go to work. Let them think we're complying while I work on solutions. And if they realize you're not playing along, then we find out how serious their threats really are. Agent Walsh called back at 8:15 a.m., just as Christina was leaving with Chloe for school drop-off. Dylan, your message has me concerned. Can you meet this morning? Federal Building lobby in 30 minutes. I'll be there. The FBI's Denver field office occupied several floors of the Byron White Courthouse, a modernist structure that projected federal authority through architectural intimidation. Agent Walsh met me in the lobby, her expression immediately shifting to professional concern when she saw my face. You look like hell, Dylan. Feel worse. We need somewhere secure to talk. She led me to a SCIF, a sensitive compartmented information facility designed to prevent electronic surveillance. Once the door sealed, I felt like I could breathe freely for the first time in 18 hours. Talk to me. I laid out the situation methodically. Christina's affair, Alex's identity as a cybercriminal, the comprehensive compromise of our home network, the blackmail demands, and the attempted breach of fintech solution systems. Jen listened without interruption, taking notes on a secure tablet. When I finished, she asked the question I'd been dreading. How much of your wife's involvement was voluntary? The affair was voluntary. The intelligence gathering was manipulation. You're certain? She's not a cyber criminal, Jen. She's a marketing director who got targeted by professionals. Alex used romance to turn her into an unwitting asset. But she did provide access to your personal devices and home network? Yes. Under false pretenses, but yes. Jen nodded. That complicates prosecution, but it doesn't prevent it. What we have here is computer fraud, extortion, identity theft, and attempted financial crimes. Interstate and international components give us clear federal jurisdiction. What's the next step? We bring in a team, cybercrime specialists, digital forensics, behavioral analysis. We're going to document everything Alex's group has done, trace their activities back to source, and build a case that puts them away for decades. What about my family's safety? Witness protection protocols, safe house, secure communications, federal marshals if necessary. We've handled cases like this before. Relief flooded through me. For the first time since discovering the affair, I felt like someone else was sharing the burden of protecting my family. How long will this take? Evidence gathering, maybe a week. Full investigation and prosecution could take months. But we can neutralize the immediate threat much faster. Neutralize how? By making Alex's operation more trouble than it's worth. Cybercriminals are fundamentally practical. When law enforcement pressure exceeds potential profit, they move on to easier targets. Jen outlined the FBI's strategy. Comprehensive surveillance of Alex's communications, financial analysis of his cryptocurrency transactions, coordination with international law enforcement to identify his associates, and technical analysis of his malware to trace distribution methods. What do you need from me? Continued cooperation. Act like you're considering their demands while we gather evidence. Don't do anything that puts your family at additional risk, but help us document their activities. And Christina? She'll need to cooperate fully. Truthful testimony about how Alex recruited her, what information she provided, what access she enabled. In exchange, we'll recommend immunity from prosecution. She'll agree to that. I hope so, because the alternative is treating her as a co-conspirator. I returned home to find Christina pacing our kitchen, phone in hand. Alex called, she said immediately. He wants to meet tonight. Says you have until midnight to transfer the money or they start releasing material. What did you tell him? That I'd pass along the message. I pulled out my phone and showed her Agent Walsh's contact information. FBI Cybercrime Unit. They're taking over the case. Relief and terror warred across her face. What does that mean for me? Cooperation in exchange for immunity. You tell them everything, help them build a case against Alex, and you walk away clean. And us? That's a separate conversation after we deal with the immediate crisis. She nodded. What do I tell Alex about tonight? That we need more time to arrange the Bitcoin transfer, banking regulations, verification procedures, whatever sounds credible. He's not going to buy that. He doesn't have to. He just needs to believe it long enough for the FBI to start tracing his communications. That afternoon, I returned to work and met with our Chief Information Security Officer to report the attempted breach of our systems. Without revealing personal details, I explained that someone had obtained my credentials and was attempting unauthorized access to client data. How did they get your login information? Tom asked. Social engineering. Someone close to me was compromised and provided access to personal devices where I'd stored work-related information. Close to you? Family member. They were targeted and manipulated by professionals. Tom's expression darkened. Industrial espionage? Cybercrime with financial motives. FBI is investigating. Jesus, Dylan, are you and your family safe? We're taking precautions, but I wanted you to know in case there are additional breach attempts. I'll notify our SOC team to monitor for anomalous activity associated with your accounts. Anything else we should know? The attackers appear to have specific knowledge of financial industry security protocols. This isn't random. They're targeting banking systems deliberately. I'll brief the executive team and coordinate with our federal liaison. Do you need time off to deal with this? I'd prefer to stay involved. This is my area of expertise. Understood. Keep me informed of any developments. That evening, Christina met with Alex at a downtown coffee shop while I monitored the situation from our home. FBI surveillance teams were positioned throughout the area, documenting everyone Alex contacted and every device he used. Agent Walsh called with updates every 30 minutes. Target is using multiple phones, rotating through different networks, conducting counter-surveillance. This guy's a professional. What about his associates? We've identified at least 3 individuals providing technical support, all using advanced operational security. This is a sophisticated organization. International. Preliminary analysis suggests Eastern European connections. Cryptocurrency transactions trace back to addresses associated with Romanian cybercrime groups. Great. We're dealing with the professionals. That's actually good news, Dylan. International criminals make mistakes when operating on U.S. soil. Different legal systems, unfamiliar territory, communication challenges. We've broken bigger networks than this. At 9:30 p.m., Christina returned home looking shaken. He wants the money transferred tonight, she announced loud enough for the surveillance devices to hear. Says he's tired of delays. I played my role. The bank needs additional verification for transactions that large. Something about anti-money laundering regulations. He doesn't care about banking regulations. Then he'll have to wait until tomorrow. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex. No more delays. Transfer the money by midnight or we release everything. I showed the message to Christina, then sent back, working on it. Need until tomorrow evening. Banking compliance issues. His response was immediate. You have 6 hours. After that, your daughter's school friends get a very educational slideshow about her parents. The threat against Chloe changed everything. I called Agent Walsh immediately. They're threatening my daughter directly. We need to move tonight. Understood. We're activating protective protocols now. Marshals will be at your house in 20 minutes. Pack essential items only. What about Alex? We're moving to arrest him and his associates simultaneously. This ends tonight. The next few hours passed in controlled chaos. Federal marshals arrived in unmarked vehicles, quickly sweeping our house for additional surveillance devices while Christina and I packed emergency bags. Chloe was confused but cooperative, treating the situation like an unexpected adventure. Dad, are we going on a surprise trip? She asked while stuffing her laptop and textbooks into a backpack. Something like that, sweetheart. We'll explain everything once we get where we're going. Agent Walsh coordinated the operation from a mobile command center parked in our neighbor's driveway. Multiple FBI teams moved simultaneously across Denver, targeting Alex's known locations and associates. At 11:47 p.m., they arrested Alex Turner at his downtown apartment, seizing multiple computers, phones, and cryptocurrency hardware wallets. 2 associates were arrested at a shared workspace in the tech district. A third suspect escaped but was identified and placed on federal wanted lists. Target is in custody, Agent Walsh reported. Preliminary search of his equipment reveals extensive criminal activity, financial fraud, identity theft, international cybercrime conspiracy. This guy's looking at serious federal time. What about the threats against my family? Neutralized. His operation was entirely dependent on him personally. With Alex in custody, the blackmail scheme collapses. And the material he gathered? We're working on that. Digital forensics will attempt to locate and secure all compromising files. But Dylan, you need to understand that some of this material may have been shared with other parties. We can't guarantee complete containment. I felt the weight of that reality settle over me. Even with Alex in custody, the damage to our privacy and dignity might be permanent. The FBI safe house was a nondescript apartment in Lakewood, furnished with government-issued furniture and equipped with secure communications equipment. We spent 3 days there while federal agents processed evidence and built their case against Alex's network. During those 3 days, Christina and I had difficult conversations about our marriage, our future, and our responsibilities to Chloe. The affair was just one component of a larger betrayal. She'd compromised our family's security through poor judgment and misplaced trust. I want to fix this, she said on our second night in the safe house. Fix us. I don't know if that's possible. I stared out the window at the anonymous suburban street. It's not just about the affair, Christina. It's about the judgment. You gave a stranger access to our home network, our personal devices, our family's private information. I was manipulated. You were. But you also made choices, multiple choices, over months, that put our family at risk. So that's it? 14 years of marriage over? I don't know yet. I need time to process everything. Agent Walsh visited on the third day with updates on the investigation. Alex Turner's real name is Alexandru Popescu, Romanian national with previous cybercrime convictions in Europe. He's been operating in the U.S. for approximately 2 years, targeting high-value individuals in the technology and financial sectors. How many other families has he victimized? We've identified at least 12 similar cases. Software engineers, financial analysts, cybersecurity professionals, all targeted through romantic manipulation of family members. Jesus. The good news is that his operation was very compartmentalized. Each victim was isolated, no cross-contamination of data. The material he gathered on your family was stored separately from other victims. And the bad news? He's not talking. Professional criminals rarely cooperate with federal investigations. We'll build our case through digital evidence and victim testimony. What do you need from us? Continued cooperation. Christina's testimony about how she was recruited and manipulated. Your technical analysis of the security compromises. Documentation of all financial and personal damages. Over the following weeks, our lives slowly returned to something resembling normal. We moved back into our house after FBI technicians removed all of Alex's surveillance equipment and restored our network security. Chloe returned to school with additional security protocols in place. Christina resumed her marketing work, though she'd lost several clients who were uncomfortable with the security breach. I threw myself into work, using my experience as a victim to improve fintech solutions' employee security awareness programs. The irony wasn't lost on me. Being targeted by cyber criminals had made me a better cybersecurity professional. But the damage to our marriage proved irreparable. The trust that had taken 14 years to build had been shattered, not just by infidelity but by the fundamental breach of our family's security. Every conversation carried the weight of surveillance. Every digital interaction reminded us of violated privacy. Every evening at home echoed with the knowledge that strangers had watched our most intimate moments. 3 months after Alex's arrest, Christina and I agreed to divorce. I understand, she said, when I finally voiced the decision. I understand, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, for both of us. What about Chloe? Joint custody. We'll make it work for her sake. The divorce proceedings were amicable, mediated rather than contested. Christina kept the house. I found a downtown condo near my office. We divided assets equitably and agreed on shared custody arrangements that prioritized Chloe's stability. Agent Walsh called with updates on the prosecution periodically. Alex had been indicted on 17 federal charges related to cybercrime, extortion, and identity theft. His associates had been arrested in coordinated raids across 3 countries. The network had been effectively dismantled. He's looking at 25 to 30 years, she reported during one call. Federal prison, no possibility of parole. Good. Dylan, I wanted you to know that your cooperation was instrumental in breaking this case. The technical analysis you provided helped us understand their methods and trace their activities. We've prevented dozens of similar attacks. That's something, I guess. It's more than something. You turned a personal crisis into a public service. That takes courage. 6 months later, I was promoted to Chief Security Officer at FinTech Solutions, partly in recognition of my expanded expertise in cybercrime victimization and prevention. The experience of being targeted had given me insights that couldn't be learned from textbooks or training seminars. Chloe adjusted to the divorce better than either Christina or I had expected. She spent weekdays with her mother and weekends with me, maintaining relationships with both parents, while gradually understanding the circumstances that had led to our separation. "Dad, why did Mom's boyfriend try to steal money from your work?" she asked one evening while we were working on her computer programming homework. "It's complicated, sweetheart. He wasn't really her boyfriend. He was a criminal who pretended to care about her so he could get information about our family." "Like a confidence trick?" "Exactly like that. He used her emotions against her to get access to things he wanted to steal." "That's really mean." "Yes, it is. That's why it's important to be careful about who you trust with personal information." "Is that why you teach companies about computer security?" "Part of it. I help people protect themselves from criminals who try to use technology to hurt others." "Like a digital superhero?" I smiled. "Something like that." A year after Alex's arrest, I received a letter from a victims' rights organization thanking me for my testimony in the federal case. Alex had been sentenced to 28 years in federal prison, and his conviction had helped prosecutors build cases against his associates in Romania and Bulgaria. The international cybercrime network that had targeted our family had been completely dismantled. But the personal cost remained significant. Christina and I maintained a civil relationship focused on co-parenting, but we never recovered the intimacy that had defined our marriage. The surveillance had poisoned something fundamental in our ability to trust each other. Every conversation carried the echo of hidden microphones, every gesture the memory of hostile cameras. 2 years later, I established Parker Digital Security, a cybersecurity consulting firm specializing in protecting high-net-worth individuals and families from targeted cybercrime. My experience as a victim gave me credibility that traditional consultants couldn't match. I understood both the technical methods criminals used and the emotional manipulation that made their attacks successful. Christina rebuilt her marketing career, specializing in cybersecurity awareness campaigns for small businesses. She'd turned her experience as a victim into expertise that helped other entrepreneurs recognize and prevent social engineering attacks. We never spoke directly about rebuilding our romantic relationship. The foundation of trust that marriage required had been too thoroughly undermined by the surveillance, the deception, and the knowledge that our most private moments had been documented and weaponized. But we built something else, a functional co-parenting partnership focused entirely on Chloe's well-being and security. 3 years after the arrests, Chloe was accepted into MIT's cybersecurity program with a full scholarship. Her essay about growing up in a family targeted by international cyber criminals had impressed the admissions committee. "I want to study digital forensics," she told me during her graduation dinner. "Help families like ours when criminals target them." "You sure about that career path? It can be stressful work." "Dad, I've seen what happens when people don't protect themselves properly. And I've seen how you turn something terrible into something that helps other people. I want to do that too." 5 years after Alex's arrest, I received a notification that he'd died in federal prison. Natural causes. Heart attack at age 43. The man who'd destroyed my marriage and terrorized my family was gone. But the changes he'd forced in our lives remained permanent. By then, Parker Digital Security had grown into a nationally recognized firm protecting Fortune 500 executives, government officials, and high-profile families from targeted cybercrime. I'd written 2 books about personal cybersecurity and testified before Congress, about protecting American families from international cyber criminals. Christina had remarried, a divorced father of two who understood the complexities of blended families and the importance of digital privacy. I'd been invited to their wedding, a small ceremony that symbolized her successful rebuilding of her personal life. I remained single, focusing on work and my relationship with Chloe. Dating felt impossible when every potential partner had to be vetted for cybersecurity risks, when every intimate conversation carried the memory of surveillance, when trust itself had become a professional liability. But I'd found purpose in protecting other families from experiencing what we'd endured. Last month, I keynoted the National Cybersecurity Conference with a presentation titled, "When Trust Becomes Vulnerability: Protecting Families from Targeted Social Engineering." The final slide contained a quote I developed through years of recovery. Security isn't about building perfect defenses. It's about recognizing when a system has been compromised and having the courage to build something new. In the audience, I recognized several clients whose families I'd helped protect from similar attacks. CEOs who'd learned to compartmentalize their digital lives. Entrepreneurs who'd implemented family security protocols. Government officials who'd educated their children about operational security. Each success story validated the transformation of our personal tragedy into protective expertise for others. After the presentation, a young woman approached me at the reception. She looked familiar, though I couldn't place her immediately. "Mr. Parker? My name is Sarah Randolph. I was the analyst who first identified the attack patterns against your company's systems." "Sarah, of course. How are you?" "I'm well. I wanted to thank you for the recommendation letter. I start at the FBI's cybercrime unit next month." "You'll do excellent work there." "I hope so. The case we worked on together, it changed how I think about cybersecurity. It's not just about protecting systems, it's about protecting people." "Exactly right." As I drove home that evening, I reflected on the journey from victim to advocate. The surveillance cameras in my car, installed by my security team for protection, no longer felt invasive. They represented control regained, trust rebuilt, security restored through professional expertise rather than domestic surveillance. My phone buzzed with a text from Chloe, now in her junior year at MIT. "Saw your conference presentation online. Proud of you, Dad. Mom said to tell you congratulations too." Christina and I had built something unexpected from the ruins of our marriage. A partnership focused on protecting our daughter and helping other families avoid the digital traps that had ensnared us. The criminals who'd targeted our family had intended to exploit our vulnerabilities for profit. Instead, they'd created two cybersecurity advocates whose expertise protected countless other families from similar attacks. Trust, once broken, could never be fully restored. But it could be rebuilt in new forms, with better defenses, informed by hard-earned wisdom about the price of digital vulnerability. The trap had been sprung, the damage inflicted, the marriage destroyed. But from the wreckage, we'd constructed something stronger: expertise that served justice, protection that prevented other families from experiencing our pain, and the knowledge that even the most sophisticated attacks could be defeated by patience, professionalism, and federal prosecution. Alex had won the battle for our marriage but lost the war for our family's future. His 28-year prison sentence was justice, but our transformation from victims to protectors was revenge.